Welcome to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, speaking to you from the borough of Queens. It is the 9th day of August 2022. Do like to remind you I publish a newsletter called Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. You can subscribe to that by going to miningstocks.com. And we like to promote Chen Lin's letter as well. What is Chen buying? What is Chen selling? Go to chenpicks.com for that letter. And Chen really has some very exciting things in the biotech sector that I am also following in my newsletter, miningstocks.com, or Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks, which you can subscribe to at miningstocks.com. I do want to thank each of you for listening to the show, making it one of the more popular shows in the Voice America Business Channel. Also like to encourage you to send along whatever comments you have about this show to questionsfortaylor@gmail.com. Questions, the number 4, Taylor@gmail.com. And we want to thank our sponsors for making this show economically viable. Our sponsors this week: Irving Resources, Novo Resources, El Oro Resources, SK Mining, Timberline Resources, and Lion One Metals. I've titled today's show, Gold and the Upcoming Recession. That's from Alistair McLeod's latest letter, and he is a guest along with Quentin Henning today. Alistair wrote the following in his July 21st weekly missive, and I quote, "We are now seeing the initial stages of a currency, credit, and banking crisis develop. Driving it are an inflation of prices, contraction of bank credit, and a pathological fear of recession. One can imagine that the major central banks almost wish a mild recession upon us so that they can keep interest rates suppressed and bond yields low. The key to understanding the course of events is that the cycle of bank credit is turning down, and this time the factors driving contraction are greater than anything we have experienced since the 1930s and possibly in all modern monetary history." Alistair stated in the introduction to his letter that, and I quote, "This article joins the dots between inflation and recession and puts the relationship between money, that is only gold, currencies, credit, and commodity prices into their proper perspective," end of credit. Well, we'll certainly ask Alistair to help connect those dots as we talk to him in the second half of today's show and to help us understand what that might mean for us as we navigate what seems to be some very troubled waters ahead of us. So we look forward to hearing look forward to Alistair's guidance in the second half of today's show. Of course, the current political trend in America continues. If it does continue, we will no longer have to worry too much about investments because in a dictatorship, the Democrat Party-backed, the Democrat-backed World Economic Forum are seeking to put in place, in the words of Klaus Schwab, a world in which they, meaning the masses, will own nothing and they will be happy. So if we own nothing, I guess we don't have to worry too much about our investments. Well, if you think seriously about what the Department of Justice and the FBI did last evening in raiding the home of a former president, you might well have reason to wonder what's going on here. To the extent we can still hope and believe our elections are free, now more than ever, citizens who understand what is at stake need to be sure to get out and vote in November. Actually, I expect to talk more about America's current and accelerating move towards what looks like a fascist dictatorship with Doug Casey, who is scheduled to be my guest next week. But getting back to today's show, in the second segment, Dr. Quentin Henning will provide an update on SK Mining that was pre-recorded last Saturday, August 6th, because Quentin had to travel to Australia this week. And when I went to my desk this morning, I received an instant message from Quentin from wherever he is down in Western Australia. He advised me that SK Mining just put out a press release, and that's what Quentin was going to talk to us about, as I just noted, SK Mining giving us an update. Well, he did pre-record on August 6th, but just this morning on August 9th, SK came out with some very positive news. Remarkably, when Quentin sent me this message, after 38 hours of air travel, he actually offered to come on the show live today, but when we talked a little bit more about it, he and I both figured it was probably better after 38 hours of travel that he get a little shut-eye and rest a little bit. So I think he was really happy to do that. In my interview with Quinton, which you will hear in a few minutes from now, nothing has changed with today's press release except that things have actually gotten better. SK, as reported in today's news release, has discovered yet another volcanic massive sulfide, that is VMS for short, a VMS center at the Jeff North, and that has intercepted polymetallic VMS mineralization in two areas along the TV and Jeff corridor. If you listen to Quinton's discussion, you will hear him mention some exciting news reported last week regarding a new VMS discovery at another location on the company's gigantic SK district property named Scarlet Ridge. Well, picking up on the news from last week, SK Mining's Vice President of Exploration, Dr. John DeDecker, said the following in today's press release, and I quote, "As with the Scarlet Ridge Tarn Lakes VMS corridor, the TV Jeff VMS corridor is proving itself to be another large VMS complex with sulfide mineralization focused along multiple Sin volcanic fault structures, each closely associated with intense hydrothermal alteration of volcanic rocks. The discovery of Jeff North now extends the strike length of the known TV Jeff VMS corridor to 3.7 kilometers. Importantly, recent drill holes completed in two areas have yielded intercepts of polymetallic sulfide mineralization with abundant chalcopyrite and sphalerite. Also encouraging, anomalous geochemical results recently received from soil samples collected at the very start of 2022 exploration season indicate mineralization potentially extends another 2 kilometers further north from Jeff North, in other words, 5.7 potential kilometers. So the potential tonnage and the grades, if they hold up, portend something that's very, very significant, I would suggest, for SK Mining. So, of course, I'll be writing a little more about this in my newsletter this weekend, so those of you who are subscribers will want to pay some attention to that. I think this is really certainly one of my favorites, SK Mining, and one I think you might want to pay close attention to.